Welcome, listeners. Thank you for tuning in. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or YouTube. I prefer the face-to-face. I want to see everybody. So if you want to watch us on YouTube, here we are. It's also the preferred form of the watching because you can see the clips we bring. I think that's important. I'm Jim Galizia.
I'm Victoria Fragnito, and today as our day player, we are bringing on an AFC member. Her name is Jenny B. So Jenny is a freelance model, and she's also a content creator. So she is taking a lot of the behind-the-scenes footage and kind of creating a YouTube channel based off of all of the things that she does as a model, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about creating content, doing that whole thing. And she also she told us to watch Pleasantville as her movie of choice. So we watched that, and we'll be talking a little bit about that film.
Yes, I loved it. I haven't seen that movie since I was a little kid. I don't think it's another one of those movies that I just didn't understand the way that you can understand it as an adult. I was just like, look at all the black and white and the colors. I'm also bad with black and white, and I think I've said this in the past, where if a movie's in black and white, it's tough for me to watch. But this is a little different because it doesn't start off in black and white and comes back in, but you know, we'll get into that a little bit more later.
Yeah, I'm glad she picked it. I like this film a lot.
Yeah.
So as far as Jenny goes, we're going to be talking to her about her content creation and editing. And I know you have a lot of experience as far as editing goes, but she's a newbie. She's learning from scratch on her own.
Yeah, it seems to be everybody wants to launch a YouTube channel, you know. It seems like she has a very specific thing she wants to do with it, and she has like a specific voice for it, and that's cool.
Yeah.
People dive right in. They don't know what they want to do with YouTube or try to like make different videos. I've done that, you know, where I was just like, I think I want to start a vlog, and I started doing it, and I did like 4 or 5 episodes, and I was like, this isn't for me. I kind of branched away from that. I did one episode where me and a buddy just went around New York City, and we just ate like random like halal cart food. Remember when you could walk outside and just meet up with a friend and eat food off the street? Yeah. That's not a thing anymore. But video editing is tough. Have you ever video edited before?
So I run a lot of social media accounts I run my fiance Nicholas's for Cinema Veritas Productions, and I run for a Shakespeare company that I'm a part of, Matchlit Theater. I run for my own play. So I do edit footage for that. Now, I have not done like a full video edit or anything like that. I tend to take what other people have done and edit it down to fit social media. That is hard enough. That is difficult.
Project from the start and saying, this is what I want to do. Like one of her videos that she put up was her baking cookies. And it's like 20 minutes long. And I mean, it's pretty uncut. Like it's just like a 20-minute long video of her. This is how I'm baking these cookies. But just getting into editing, it's a whole new world. It's kind of like learning a language. It's basically like if you wanted to learn a whole new language, there's shortcuts on the keyboard. You got to be careful what buttons you press. It's pretty wild. It takes a lot. There's definitely YouTube tutorials and stuff like that, but you gotta just keep at it and keep learning and pushing. It goes with everything, but editing's particularly difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult and time consuming, and I got to give her all the credit in the world for teaching herself how to do it, because she just has all the drive to get this hustle moving for her YouTube channel.
Coronavirus quarantine is definitely the time to do it, where you're just sitting at home all day. And maybe when coronavirus quarantine ends, if you're trying to learn camera stuff or editing stuff, that might be the time to go back into the world and be like, oh, cool. So I know how to edit this footage. Now when I approach it with a camera and I want to film something, I'll know what I need to do to get to the next step. It all works together. So if you know how to edit, sometimes that informs how you film things, because you can kind of envision the final product, and you can say, oh, if I cut to this, or if I move these clips and, you know, match cut them or something like that. There's different ways to do it, but I think it's beneficial to at least understand editing when you're a camera person, but you know.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely useful. And if she's going to be creating her own videos and doing that, you know, this is just step one, for her to really expand her YouTube viewership and the content that she wants to create. But
Sure.
let's stop talking about her and let's start talking to her and bring her on.
Yeah, we're going to show a clip from one of her photo shoots that she put together, and then we'll bring her on and we'll talk to her about it. Okay, and we're here with Jenny B. Hi, Jenny. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Great. So we just watched your video. Tell us a little bit about why you put that video together.
So I've been trying to start to keep more consistent with my YouTube channel, and I had one of my previous before the quarantine photo shoots was with Francisco Joel Hernandez, FJH Photo, and he's such a good photographer, and he sent me a video when I first started working with him, maybe 2 years before that. So I felt like I owed him one. So I clipped together all of the stuff from our last photo walk because he didn't get a chance to video it or have anybody there to video it. But I actually had a couple friends there who took some clips. So I put them all together and posted it on YouTube as I'm trying to post every Monday and Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. So that was just like another piece of the puzzle.
Cool. Are you editing these and trying to time it out to post right at 7:30, or are you scheduling them in advance? You can
a lot of the time now I schedule them in advance. The first time I tried to do it, I was like, let me just edit all day and then post at 7. But that was a nightmare. So now I just try to get it done and then have it scheduled for Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do, because usually we have filmmakers and actors, and you don't really fit those molds, but you're trying to create video content. But tell us what you do.
So my most recent video looks like I'm an actress because I'm doing a little clip for a cosplayer who makes his own amazing costumes, and we had a videographer shoot it, so it looks like the trailer for a movie, and people are like, "You act?" I'm like, "No," but it looks that way. I've been modeling freelance modeling for the past 5 years. I hosted a lot of my own workshops and teamed up with photographers to do workshops, which is basically just teaching photographers how to use their light, how to work with models, how to communicate with them. And it's mostly on the tech side of like teaching photographers, but I would always like hire the models and be on that end of the thing. And then sometimes I would just model myself because that is my job. So I did a lot of fashion ones and I did a lot of boudoir because I do a mix of both. And even the fashion, I try to keep it like my style, which is like, sexy and fashionable and whatever. So that's what I've been doing for 5 years. And in the last 2.5 years of it, I was traveling the US, which was pretty cool. And it was all working with, different people. But this quarantine definitely, I am trying to adjust to do different things, which is where the content creation, I guess, comes in so heavy because now I have time to do it.
Yeah, you have time to teach yourself how to edit.
Yes, and I'm apparently not bad at it. It just takes quite a bit of time to learn.
So how did you get into modeling in the first place? How did that all start for you?
I just wrote about this in my imaginary blog that doesn't exist yet. Okay, so basically this goes back a pretty long time, actually. I never thought I could model a day in my life. It wasn't what I was interested in. I played sports and I took dance as a kid because I had a lot of energy, always. But I never thought about modeling because it's just, I'm not 6 foot and size 2 and all the things that you think models have to be. I assumed that was the job and I was like, I don't want any of that. That's crazy. So, but in 8th grade, I've always been a singer my whole life. I love to sing. And in 8th grade, I was the lead in the play. And my friends saw me, we ended up going to the same high school. So in high school, I always would rap and sing and just like, enjoy my life. And karaoke was like my thing. And he was kind of an acquaintance who was looking for what he wanted to do in life. So a few years after high school, actually, he messaged me saying he was trying to find a job that he loved. But right now he works at a tech store. And the guy who works with him picked up a camera and wanted to learn how to shoot like models. And he shot landscapes, but he never tried with models before. So he was like, I know you love the limelight because I remember you sang in like 8th grade. I was like, really? And he was like, maybe you would like to, model. And I was like, no. Like I laughed at him. I was like, that's insane sauce. I'm not the mold. I'm not the fit. I'm 5'7". I wouldn't even be tall enough for the runway. And he was like, well, worst comes to worst, you'll get some pretty pictures. So like snap out of it and just like give it a shot. And so I did. And the second I got the pictures back after that day, I knew there was a business opportunity there. So I just kept running with it from then on.
Nice. Okay. And so you say that you're freelance. So what does that entail? Is it a lot of like job hunting on your end? Is it a lot of like bartering with photographers, trying to be like, I'll model for you if you give me photos? Like,
okay, so that's funny that you asked that. The first 6 months, when I saw the pictures, I was like, all right, I have no experience. I have no portfolio. I have like selfies that are, the worst from like, Facebook for years. So I knew right away when I saw the pictures that there was an opportunity, but I also knew I didn't want to be one of those girls who just kind of is like, I'm good at this. Let me charge $1 million, a day. I really wanted the portfolio. I wanted to make this a real passion project. So for 6 months, I saw the pictures and I was like, okay, you can do this. You thought you couldn't do this, but you can do this. If people want print models, if that's a thing, I didn't really know it was, then stick to it. So I begged my family to give me 6 months of like no working a crappy retail job and no, folding panties at Victoria's Secret. Just let me do this for 6 months. And if I can make money in 6 months, and let me continue to do it. And my dad was like, yeah, you could do this. Like, I know you got this. You're a star. And my mom, everyone thought it was backwards because my dad was a dreamer. My mom's more practical. Everyone thought like my dad wouldn't like the lingerie and the fashion and the traveling the world by myself. He was all like, do whatever makes you happy. My mom was like, this is crazy. What are you thinking? So, and I was like, Mom, don't worry. In 6 months, I'll make money. So I did 6 months of trade for print, which is what you mean by bartering. It's basically saying trade for print. We call it TFP is just a photographer and a model collaborate on a project. No money goes in between, but you get pictures and whatever you decide on, whether it be 3 to 30 pictures is what you get at the end of the day. So I did that for 6 months full time with nothing else going on. And I hustled hard because I knew I had it. Like I knew I could do it. I worked with a lot of newbies, so the pictures weren't always very good, but sometimes I would work with a good guy and like they'd be great, So I kept doing that until I had a portfolio that was over 1,000 pictures and not all of them were good, but enough of them were that it made sense. And then after that, I started charging $50 an hour, and I was like, hustle. And then over the years, I've made quite a bit more than that because I had other photographers helping me with the business side of it, and creators who were like, hey, you can do this, you can do that. And then I met a pro photographer who was like, I worked with him in New York for a workshop that I never assumed would lead anywhere else. And at the end of the workshop, the two other models hired left early, and I was still there, like working really hard. So he saw that I had passion for what I was doing, and he traveled the whole world, Europe and he does it all. And he was like, I want you to, at the end of the workshop, I was about to leave, and he's like, hey, I want you to travel with me. And after that 2 weeks, I knew what I wanted to do, what I wanted to focus on. And I knew that I could work for him. I had the option to do that, but I decided to work for myself because I want to do things the hard way, because that's just the way I am.
Yeah, I mean, but that's awesome though, because then you have complete control and creative control over your career and what you do.
Yeah.
So now I'm guessing a lot of, I guess, your marketing for yourself comes over social media. A lot of that.
Okay, so that's kind of a problem as of late. Not really a problem. I mean, I'm sure I can turn it into a positive, and I'm grateful to have a big following on Instagram. It's just not the best place for actual marketing. Like it was a really good place to store my portfolio. And in the beginning, a few years ago, Instagram didn't like it when you had, as far as freelance models go, there was kind of a thing with the algorithm where you keep like just a small portfolio, just so people could see 50 to 100 pictures and that's it, or they'll lose like who you are. And then the last 2 years or so, the big thing has been, even for celebrities, to just post as much content as you possibly can. And now we're in this age, of course, with the pandemic and everything, where it's just like content. They want like thousands of pictures. And I was keeping my portfolio to 100. So people are like, how do you have 122,000 followers and 100 pictures? How did this even happen? And I'm like, I have tons of pictures. I just wasn't sharing all of them because I wanted my portfolio to be a portfolio. Then I realized Instagram was changing into content creation, and so was the rest of the world. So I had to really adjust. And in this downtime, I've been taking all that time to post once a day every morning, really put thought into it. I also want to spread like motivation and positivity. So I'm always kind of including that into my posts. And I write quite a bit, which has inspired me to write a blog, which I'm working on building a website. Like so many things are changing, and I'm just trying to adjust and be grateful for what I do have, because I have quite a foundation, just not all the pieces in place.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because, a lot of actors are trying to, promote themselves the same way on Instagram and trying to get a following without just being like, here's a picture of my resume, I'm on another audition. You have to vary up the content and make sure that people want to engage with you. But
exactly. It's a different life. Yeah. And it's like my fans, I wake up to like 50 messages from different people all over the world. And there's people who send voice messages, and there's people who, just saying like, thank you, love your work. And I'm like, okay. And then there's photographers from all over the place who are like, I want to work with you. And people wanted to do virtual photo shoots, and I can do that because I have a camera. So I was getting a lot of requests for that. And I booked a couple, but then I booked a couple others. I did a few and they were good. But then I canceled the rest because I really wanted to focus on laying down a stronger foundation for a stronger future. And I just felt like adding in photo shoots at home when I have other things that I was ignoring while I was traveling and doing photo shoots, it's too much. So like I wanted to focus on one thing.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So now, as far as your YouTube channel goes, what kind of content are you putting up there? What's going on with that?
YouTube's a little bit of a nightmare for me. I'm very comfortable in front of the camera. As you can see, I'm not shy. We just met and I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, if I met you in person, I'd be the exact same way. Like people look at my pictures and I realized they thought I was very mean because my pictures are like, so of course that's all they see. So they think, like, oh, Jenny's probably not very friendly. And then when the people who've seen that, who met me in real life, like whenever I travel or when they met me in my, karaoke or something, they would always be like, you're Jenny B? Like, there's no way. Yeah, I think I was putting kind of a false alert out there, and it got to only a certain place. What I wanted to do with YouTube was show who I actually am, but all of my content came from videographers who shot me when I was modeling. My last video is a Catwoman video. I look like Anne Hathaway. Like, it's what I'm saying is one of my YouTubes is probably going to be connected to Jenny B Official, like the fashion, the sexy, the photo shoots, that kind of work. And I'm probably gonna have to keep that way. But if I really want to progress on YouTube, I think I'm gonna have to, and I wanna show people like who I actually am, I might have to make a separate channel that I can drive traffic there to be like, hey, this is like what I actually am like. This is what I do for entertainment. Because right now my YouTube is singing, dancing, acting, and modeling only. Like if you look through it, there's videos where I'm singing, there's random like content stuff, but it's all focused around modeling. And then the one I want to make is more of like, hey, this is what people are actually like, you know, like I'm not always like serious, you know, you can talk to me, I'm okay. Like, you know what I mean?
The one video I clicked was you saying, hey, I'm going to bake cookies. And then I skipped ahead like 5 minutes and you still hadn't even started baking the cookies.
It's rough, yeah.
Talking about how my camera's at the wrong angle. And then I think I skipped ahead again to like 10 minutes. And you were like, all right, you're going to use a whole stick of butter. I hate video editing. And you went on like a tirade about how you don't like it. Has it been tough to learn video editing now that you're trying to do it all yourself?
You know what's really sad that if I could put one thing out here in this video, which I'm going to put out consistently over the rest of my life for other women and men and content creators and just people in general, is never assume that you can't do anything. Don't put yourself down. Like I feel like a lot of my life, because I have 3 older siblings than me, and they were very book smart. My whole life, they were very into school and writing and math, and like they're just geniuses of some sort. And I'm very smart, but I always put myself down. I compare myself to them because I was more of an active kid. I didn't like to sit home on the computer. So I really told myself I was stupid and I could never do anything technologically based. So even with modeling, it was like I was always running and traveling and packing my bag and dressing up and makeup, and like I'm really good at performing in front of the camera. But when it came to having to edit my own video, I got paralyzed with fear. And it was all because in my head, I wasn't like my big brother who, you know, is a tech master or whatever. And it's like anybody watching this, after a few days of just like consistent, you know, watching videos how to do it, sitting down and actually practicing and putting time and effort in, and some tears and sweat and blood, you know, I like stubbed my toe a couple times. But once you just do it and just put it out there, there's nothing you can't do is what my main thing is. That's what my whole channel I want it to be about. When I make my personal channel, is like, you can bake cookies while being terrified of editing and sit down all day and edit it, and no one can watch it, but you did it. Like, it doesn't matter, you know, do whatever your heart desires.
About becoming a model, when the first person said, hey, you should.
Yeah, I was like, no, I can't do that.
Way. I can't do that. I'm too short, whatever. Yeah. And then you said, screw it, I'm just going to do it anyway. And you did it. And you're finding success in it, so that's really cool.
I think I think this has to be directed mostly towards women, but I do know a lot of men who have the same problem. But women are like classic at like being good at something and being like, I'm not that good at it, you know. Like they put themselves down before they even start. Like a woman will make a beautiful casserole and like it'll sparkle vegan mastery, and like I'm not even vegan, but like you can appreciate the beauty in a great casserole. But the woman who cooked it will always be the first person to be like, it's not good enough, I don't like it, I'm not a good cook. And it's like everyone's eating it and saying how great it is while she's doing that. And I think men do it too, but they're more logical. They generally think more in order. So they're like, let me just do this and I'll do it. If I don't do it, I won't do it. If I do, it'll be great. But women are like, let me do 5 things incredibly and put myself down and never post any of it. So for the female content creators out there, I see Victoria shaking her head like, yes, we do this. You know, I think women have to know that like, you can do this. You can think logically. It just takes a lot of focus and a lot of patience and time, patience with yourself and patience with others. Like life, it's not all going to make sense step by step, which is something I'm learning every day. But if you put time and effort into it, you can absolutely do it.
Yeah.
You know, one of the funny things is I was always an actor first, and I never thought I would do anything else in the realm. Yeah. But I started writing a couple years ago, and I feel like I kind of had the opposite reaction to what you're talking about when you're getting into editing, and that I knew nothing about playwriting or anything like that. I started jumping into the deep end from the beginning because I didn't have that little voice in my head telling me I didn't belong there. Whereas when I'm acting or applying for things, sometimes I'll hold myself back because I'm like, I'm not at that level yet. I'm not that good, you know. And but with playwriting, I was able to I didn't have that voice yet. It's starting to hop in now, so I'm trying to like stop it from coming in. But you know, it's funny that everyone has that little voice at some point.
At some point. And it's interesting you say that because number one, I thought you were going to say that you modeled because you're absolutely beautiful. But when you say I'm serious, but when you're saying that you were acting and that like that, you know, you never know where the anxiety is going to kick in. But like, I have anxiety from regular, I have, you know, different problems with anxiety my whole life. And I always I would go on the soccer field and I wasn't very good at soccer, but I loved it. And I was like, I'm the best. So I would just like run around and do my thing. And there was no thought process that you can't do this until it got more competitive. And then I got nervous. But like, for when it was fun, it was all fun. And even though I knew I wasn't the best, I never let that stop me. Never. I just wanted to play the game. Now, you know, modeling, I saw the pictures and right away I was like, oh, you got this. You've always been a ham in front of the camera. Didn't think you had the credentials. But when it came to technology, even as a kid, like, it was the last thing I would do to spend an afternoon on the computer. A lot of my friends at the time, even young, would be like, oh my God, I just downloaded this game and we're playing. We used to play like games on the computer and they would download music on the computer. I got into that pretty late because as a kid, I just wanted to like go outside. So I felt like this was the last place I belonged, was editing and being a content creator. Meanwhile, I know more than I give myself credit for working with all these photographers who knew a lot of technology stuff. So it's still a bit of a shock, and I'm sure it still will be. But like you said, like sometimes you think like, I can do this and I've got this is so easy. But then something that you're really good at, you're like, I can't do that. And it's like, but you really are very good at it. So it's like, don't be scared. It's anxiety, just all, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been video editing for like over 10 years, and I feel like every time I open the video editor, I learn how to do something new.
There's always something new to learn with that.
Always a new problem. There's always a new hurdle. So it's all about just like trying and trial by fire, kind of jumping in and just seeing what you can put out. What is the future for you and your YouTube channel and the content you're trying to create and put out there?
So there's kind of the thing I wanted to work on, that I was working on when traveling, was partnering up with a photographer and running these workshops and teaching. And I kind of want to do that all over the world, like teach workshops and everything. So that was like one, like, you know, teaching that skill, the skill that I've been working on, the skill that I've learned, the skill that I was always kind of a natural at. I was like, let me focus on what I'm good at and teach. And a lot of my fans come from that, so they will be driven there naturally. But for me personally, that's like kind of a business plan, like doing the workshops everywhere and teaching them and everything. But I think for me personally, I haven't figured out exactly what I want to do, what I want to teach yet, but I know I want to talk about anxiety, motivation, mental illness, stuff that like people don't know that I have any experience in, because nobody knew anything about me 5 years before, you know, like I did this. And there's a lot of things that have happened to me in my life that I don't even think about, that have made me as strong as I am today, that other people feel like weak for. And sometimes I do as well. And I really want to eventually like be talking around the world, giving motivational speeches like, you can do this, whatever this is. It doesn't have to be modeling, and it doesn't have to be taking pictures. I want to teach that as a job, but I want to let people know as a passion that anything you set your mind to, you know, as long as you remain yourself, like true to yourself, you'll be happy and you can do it, you know, just with the work and the effort. That's kind of the dream, you know. I just have to talk a little slower if I want to be a motivational speaker.
Well, you did say that you had a lot of energy, so.
Yes, I do. Also, you have a cat in the background, and I have a black cat. I have 2 black cats.
Yeah, she was sleeping, and she was blended into, I couldn't move her from the shoot because she looks so cute, so I didn't want to.
So cute. I love cats. I have 2 black cats and a black dog, and usually my cat would be right there, but he like doesn't like it when I talk, so he's like, I'm out.
I gotta ask you, what made you pick Pleasantville as the movie suggestion for us?
I think it was just because when Jim asked me what your favorite movie is, I have a lot of Kill Bill is one of my favorite movies. The first Spider-Man, one of my favorite movies. The first and second Spider-Man, the first 2 Harry Potters. I mean, there's like things that, you know, I draw to. But the movie I've been saying since forever, that since I saw it, that is my actual favorite, is Pleasantville. And the reason why is because I was thinking about this all last night. I was like, well, what do I say that is exactly, you know, the reason why? And I think what it comes down to, if I can explain this correctly, is there are a lot of movies that try to talk about race, religion, politics, culture, all those things. They often have a one-sided story. Whether the story is sad on one side or like demanding on the other, it kind of shows one side or the other of a feeling, and then people get mad at one side. Like whether it's about anti-Semitism, like the Holocaust, or whether it's American History X, like that kind of that skinhead thing, or whether it's about black or white or color or whatever it is, it's a very, very tricky topic to play without people freaking out and just calling names on both sides. And I think Pleasantville does an incredible job of hitting some of the most important aspects of our society that we don't talk about or that we judge people on, without labeling or breaking or like pointing fingers, because they do it in a creative way. They move around the black and white and actually have a film that is in black and white that turns to color when people feel their emotions. So it's not basing just off race or religion or politics. It's all of it with a creative mask that is like, watch this and understand instead of watch this and judge and be harsh. Because I think the reason it's my favorite all time really is because I always thought, I never understood how people could be so cruel to each other. And I've literally written it in a journal like 50 times, like how could people be so cruel to each other? I don't understand why that's even a thought. But because it still is in 2020, it makes me sick, demeaning women and racial judgment is getting worse. And it's like, people are just coming out of the woodwork to hurt each other. And I never will understand the mindset on that cruelty. And my grandparents survived the Holocaust. So I guess there's like a part of my soul that does not understand how one could be so cruel to another, regardless of skin, religion, politics, doesn't matter. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And Pleasantville just does a beautiful job of showing something that is hard to talk about and making it like, open your eyes and be like, okay, everybody's different. Accept it and move forward. Like, let's not harass people for who they are. Cause that's a very, very serious topic to me that I don't get to talk about much because nobody wants to hear an Instagram model be like, don't be racist. Like, it just doesn't work. So I feel very extremely, my heart gives to it. So that's it.
That's what your YouTube channel is for. Tell them exactly who you are.
Yeah. Tell them what it is.
Say it.
I know that's I was a little scared to talk about mental illness because I have stories that nobody knows. And I thought immediately people would be like, call me names. And then I realized in real life, people always call me names. People will always call everybody names. When you meet someone new and you think they're your best friend, there's a lot of times where they talk behind your back and say like, that person isn't as special as they think, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if we sit down and let everybody's words, and it's hard because when you model, they want you to be quiet and pretty. And I know that. I've worked with a ton of photographers who are like, oh, you have opinions? Let's save that for never. It's rough.
Yeah. Well, when you say name calling too, I wanted to ask you, B isn't your last name, right?
No, and I'm not going to give my real last name, but because I have some creepy friends
personality.
You know what I'm saying? Where did B come from? Is that what you're?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I still haven't gotten like a snappy answer for that yet. And like I should, because that's my name. But the truth is, when I was playing softball as a kid, I played soccer and softball for years at the same time on teams. And one of my favorite coaches, when I was really young, I used to like get up to the bat and like, I would like shake my ass. Like I was like really into, being sassy Magoo on the mound, even though I wasn't a good hitter. I just really pretended, and every time I would go up, he'd be like, all right, Jenny B, up to the plate, Jenny B. And like a lot of my friends, when I got older, because my last name does start with a B, my best friend, I used to do music. I would write little songs and he would rap and he'd be like, JBZ, Jenny B. Like he always made up weird nicknames for me, but everybody called me JB, and Jenny from the Block was a big thing because J-Lo was so popular when I was a kid and I sang. So everybody tied those things together. So when I started modeling and I didn't want to use my real name, I almost used my middle name, but that's a little tricky. So, cause my middle name's weird. And so I took Jenny B and just added BEE because I remember when I was really scared of bees in my house, like when I was younger, if like a bee flew in the window or something, my grandpa was really not scared of anything. And I always admired it. He would just go up to a bee, like a flying bee. I don't even know how this happens, but he would go up to it and squish it in his hand and be like, you good now? You good? It's just a bee.
Is this the same grandpa that survived the Holocaust?
No, I just come from a strong line.
That's why.
Yeah. No, my mom's parents, that was him. He was just like, he survived the Great Depression. So, he was very strong.
We're surviving a depression right now. This is pretty depressing.
I know. And like, I think I'm doing pretty well for it, but he survived the Great Depression. So to him, a spider and a bee was nothing. What he was scared of was like, not having money to feed the family. Like that stuff scared him. The logical fears that people actually who work, like get it. So he would just take the bee, because I would scream and run in circles and be like, I don't want to get stung. By the way, I never got stung until last year.
Oh, really?
Because I run so fast that if I hear a buzz in my ear, I'm so fast out of there. And I've never been stung. You know, the way I got stung was right before one of my biggest photo shoots, that the pictures everywhere. I grabbed a t-shirt out of my hotel room and I was about to go. I was like, wait, I gotta get my t-shirt. I go to grab it. There's a dead bee, like almost dead, on the shirt, not buzzing at all. It's like kind of, I could tell it was dying because it would have been flying. And it was like laying on the shirt, and I go to grab it and I feel something sting my pinky, but I've never felt that before. So I was like, what? Something bit me. And then the bee falls to the floor and I'm like, no. So like I started off because I never had been stung, and my logo was kind of like the bee because I've never been stung. And then when I got stung, I had to switch it to like the bee's been stung, it's over. And that was like, so
Then the career just went downhill from there.
yeah.
I got stung by like 6 bees all at once when I was mowing the lawn when I was a kid.
No.
It happened. My legs.
No.
I got stung like 4 times on my leg and twice on my left arm.
See, it hurts. Like I got stung on my pinky. It was blown up all day. And I have to admit, I have tattoos all over my ribs. I don't have tattoos on my arms much. I have one here, but like most of my tattoos are in the most painful spot that people say they pass out and stuff. I was fine. I fell asleep when I got my first rib tattoo, and then I continued to get them all over the place. I have quite a high tolerance for pain, but getting stung by a bee is a nightmare. So then when I did get stung and I realized how painful it is, I realized like a few things about my brand name, which are important. Without bees, we would all die. That's a fact. Like without bees, in a few years, we would crumble. So that's why they're trying to save the bees, and they should. Everybody save the bees. So I don't kill bees anymore. I just run away from them like I always have. But another thing about bees, oh no, I forgot what I was going to say. It was important. Oh no. Oh, okay. So I kind of gave too much of my time away, and I was a little bit too nice at certain times, and people would take advantage because they always want artists to do a lot without, giving them what they need in back. And it's rough the way they treat actors, singers, dancers, models, everything. So when I realized how painful it was to get stung by a bee, I was like, I can be nice and they have to save the bees, and without bees, we would die. So we're quite important, aren't we? But never mess with the bee, because getting stung sucks. And that's when I really I'd have to stand up for myself, and I'd be like, you do not let people hurt you, because you can sting them and it hurts,
Yeah, shoot like a butterfly and sting like a bee. That's the whole
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing all of the insight into content creation and doing your own stuff. I think it's really admirable how much you're hustling and teaching yourself all of that stuff. And thank you for your suggestion of Pleasantville. It's one of my favorite movies, so I'm glad you suggested
Oh,
it.
yay, I'm glad.
Well, thank you. We're going to let you go, but we'll be sharing all of Jenny's stuff on our Facebook page on the end of the podcast, so you'll be able to follow her and see what she's doing.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you, Jim. Thank you guys for asking me to be on this. This was really fun.
Yeah, no problem. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
All right. Well, thank you again to Jenny B for coming on, talking to us about her modeling career and her launching her YouTube page and getting into video editing during this time of quarantine, and for her movie suggestion, Pleasantville. So Pleasantville, Victoria, what did you think of it?
I mean, like I said to her, it's one of my favorite films. I've watched it so many times. And I think, I feel like I just fall a little more in love with it every single time I watch it. It's a classic to me. I know it's only from 1998, but it's a classic in my life. And I think that it's beautifully done. It's visually stunning. I think the story is great. I have a little bit of issue with the whole, talking about the coloreds, as they call them, the people who are in color. And
I think that was intentional.
I know.
Feel that way.
I know, but I think my issue is they did that and there aren't actually any people of color. Granted, there wouldn't be on TV at that time, so that makes sense. But it feels a little strange to me that they do this whole oppression of color people and it's it's obviously parallel to, you know, people of color and their struggles and everything, but there are no actual people of color in it.
Yeah.
That's a little icky to me.
That's
But
a Pleasantville sequel, which I don't think exists. It's not.
yeah.
Someone should write a Pleasantville sequel where it's the same movie, except at one point a black person walks in and goes, "Really?"
Yeah.
That's what I'm complaining about. Like, you got white picket fences and shit, and they all just chase them down. Because that's what real racism is like and real oppression is like. I mean, it's pretty. I loved all the symbolism and everything they tried to do and say with what they were doing with black and white. I'm usually against black and white movies, as I keep saying, but I think this was a little different in that it kind of handled it and like did it as a tool to tell a part of the story, which is insane, which is really great. I loved at first too because I was getting serious horror movie vibes in the best way. Like when they go in there and Tobey Maguire's character, what was his character's name? Do we remember?
I mean, I always think of him as Bud, but that's not actually his name. It's David. That's
his name in the Pleasantville world. So when he gets into Pleasantville, his name is Bud.
His real name is David.
Well, Bud is now in Pleasantville, and he goes to work because he knows all of the things going on in Pleasantville. He knows he works at this burger place. So he goes in, and the guy's like, yeah, you always open the blinds, and I always clean the counters, and once you put out the napkins is when I go make the fries, but you never put out the napkins. So I just kept wiping the counter. And he shows the stain, like the paint has been removed. And that's the point where in the horror movie it goes, dun dun. And all of a sudden he looks up at him and he has a knife and he's like, you fucking killed me. You ruined it. Ruined Pleasantville. And then
you didn't put the napkins out.
You didn't put out the fucking napkins. That's basically what happens in a horror movie. And it was like, I got super antsy. I was like, oh my God. Because that type of moment happened quite a few times where the mom especially too started like freaking out. And, you know, people are realizing that they're kind of trapped in this crazy world that doesn't make any sense. And these two people coming from the real world are like making them realize it. So at first, Tobey Maguire's character was like, we shouldn't fuck with their universe because we're going to ruin it. We're going to destroy it. And obviously, in the end, bringing color and light and different things to that universe made it much more beautiful and much more amazing, as opposed to completely destroying it and unraveling it. They unraveled all the bad things about it, and they got rid of it in the end. It wasn't easy, but, you know, I think in the end, too, they also had this idea of, like, it's supposed to happen a certain way.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think the ending lines were like, what's going to happen next? I don't know. And then the other guy goes, I don't know either. And it was like, okay, it's okay with that because their futures were always like, do exactly the same thing every time. So I really appreciated that too. All the symbolism was all done really well.
Well, and I think that, you know, when they have the people who are fighting the change and everything, and, you know, it all comes down to being afraid of new things and being afraid of what's, you know, different and unusual and not the norm, you know. So I think that, you know, it showed that, you know, the reality of it rather than just making the people who are fighting the change like these, you know, hateful, mindless, you know, characters. Some of them were like I feel like some of the teenage boys were. It reminds me a little bit of A Bronx Tale, which we watched, where the boys just hate just because that's what they're taught to do. And there's no thought behind it, where that's what it felt like with the teenagers in this film as well. Whereas like, they're just taught to hate by their parents who are just really afraid of change. And it
was kind of like a bubble universe too, like where they're trapped in like the 50s or 60s or whatever era it was supposed to be.
The 50s.
50s, yeah. And as soon as they like you started seeing some stuff in color, all of a sudden they started playing rock music from like the 70s and stuff. So it was it
wasn't from the 70s.
What was it? I wasn't paying attention. It didn't sound like it was from the 50s.
It was from the 50s. It just wasn't. Yeah, rock and roll came out in the 50s.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, what I don't recall the exact songs, and I don't know when they came out, but it sounded more like stuff that you would hear like 2 decades later or something.
No, that was 50s rock and roll. That was definitely 50s rock and roll.
Let's see. There's a whole section here about the soundtrack for it.
Yeah.
There's so much music here. There's 24 songs. But the point is, it felt like they were trying to say, like, hey, this society's, like, developing way faster all of a sudden because of these new elements that have been introduced to it. Otherwise, these characters were all trapped in this weird bubble universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought
the buses don't leave town. No one comes from, like, the town over, like, except for, like, they somehow play basketball games against, like, a rival high school, but it's not, people still can't go travel to that town that the high school is from.
Yeah. Nobody likes Jefferson High. There are rivals.
Yeah, there are rivals.
What is that? Family Guy, right? Yeah, we had to throw a Family Guy reference in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just I want to know too if they had to shoot that one shot where they all shot the basketball and it all went in perfectly. So it was like they sunk like 7 baskets all at the same time. They had to have shot that like 400 times.
I want to know how they did it. That's
1998, I'm telling you, this is how they did it. They just shot the basketball over and over again until they got it. And they said, that's the take. Got it. Great. We're glad we spent 4 fucking days on this. And there's no digital editing. They didn't do all that to CGI in the basketballs. There's no way. So back then, back in 1998, I'm sure that the filmmakers did just say, all right, you're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3. This is the order in which you shoot the balls. Just do it perfectly. And we'll see.
I mean, they did have CGI, though. Like,
yes, but I don't think it looked too real. And I think Tobey Maguire is also not super into CGI as much. Like when he did Spider-Man, you remember the first Spider-Man movie where they're at lunch and he has the tray?
Yeah.
Just after he gets his powers, so he doesn't know what he's doing. And he, like, I forget, Mary Jane's falling or something, and she throws all her stuff in the air, and he catches the tray, and he catches all the things, the Jell-O, the orange, the milk, everything.
Yeah.
He did that for real. And it took like 600 takes or something. So he was like, I don't want to do CGI for this. It's going to make it look cheesy or weird. I want to do it for real. And I got to say, I think that's what they did for Pleasantville as well. I might be wrong. But if I'm wrong and someone knows this, watching this video, please comment.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they did do it for real. Maybe, I mean, there's got to be, I feel like there has to be some sort of trickery involved in it, but who knows?
Because it's hard to believe. If you go online and you find those guys from this YouTube channel or this, they're just all around. If you find them on like TikTok or YouTube, wherever, called Dude Perfect. Dude Perfect. All they do is do trick shots with like basketballs or frisbees or whatever. The things they do are mind blowing. So they'll go like 6 blocks over, take a basketball, shuck it full force over like 6 houses or whatever, and they'll land it and they'll get the shot. Probably took them 40 times to do it, but these guys are like known for it, and they have a whole channel where that's all they do. Right now they're putting out videos of like doing like ping pong balls and banging them against 100 frying pans, and they land up. Ridiculous. Yeah. But I feel like that's the vibe that shot gave me, where it's like too perfect, and that's exactly what they were trying to say, is that things are too perfect in Pleasantville.
Well, you know what I found interesting was when I was looking up like the reception of the film, and how some people loved it, some people hate it. Like Entertainment Weekly was not sure how they felt about it, and there was also a mixed review. Now, granted, this is from a Christian magazine, but a Christian magazine was not so sure about it because it seemed like all of the sinful actions were what turned everybody into color and you know, freed everybody. And then there was a very like actual like biblical moment where the girl that Tobey Maguire was dating, handed him an apple, like from Genesis, but Eve handed the apple to Adam, and like I can see where they're coming from with that, but I think that like the other realm is like there's no beauty in it, there's no creativity in it, there's no nothing in it. It's the same. There's no, I found the reaction to it very interesting from different sources.
Yeah, I thought too that at one point I was like, these are definitely all like Christian people. Like they're all with the white picket fence, like it's the 1950s.
Yep.
They're all Christian. I found the lack of religious references. Like I thought there would have been more actually. I mean, obvious references, the Apple of Eden, and they did like the whole book burning thing where they did the mural too. They had the Holy Bible up on there. It was on fire or something. So they referenced it like it was a thing that's there, but I'm surprised that it wasn't more in the forefront, like where the characters, it could have been a lot darker, I suppose, if they had leaned on the religious element where like, say the mayor is like, we need to be good Christian people.
I have a feeling that like they didn't, and I don't think they did that in 1950s TV. I think this whole like ultra Christian thing, like if you actually look back at not to get political or whatever on the AFC podcast, but if you actually look back into all of like the references of like in God we trust and all of that stuff, that all started to come out of McCarthyism and a fear of communism. So all of that stuff started to get injected into the populace and like adding, one nation under God to the Pledge of Allegiance. All of that stuff was added like mid 50s and later. So I don't think it really probably at the time was as pervasive in television so much. And they might not, I don't think it was actually even like huge in TV and like anyway. I think it's just more into like the social consciousness and the social fabric of America and all of that stuff, less about in a TV show. So I don't think in the 1950s they actually did that on TV. So I don't think that the filmmakers were trying to make like a huge like Christian statement with like God and country and these these white picket fence people, but yeah, I don't think that was, there were obviously references to it, and
they didn't want to do it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they didn't want to bang you over the head with a burning Bible or anything.
Right. Which I thought the two when they did the book burning scene, that was a little that's when it got like super serious for me.
Yeah.
Or was that was before they did the scene where Whitey and the other teenagers ganged up on the mom all of a sudden and were like, yeah, like what's under that colored dress? And she was like, the fuck? And she was like, all basically getting mugged all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, this is bringing darkness in here. But it's crazy because all the people that had been colorized at that point, they were all cool and chill. It's the ones that weren't willing to change that got really crazy and started doing terrible things like book burnings and mugging women in the street and whatever else, what have you.
Well, I don't even know if it was like necessarily not willing to change, because I don't, like if you look at like William H. Macy's character, it wasn't like he wanted to keep things the same, obviously, but it wasn't like all of a sudden he decided I'm open to change. He just thought about how much he loved his wife and that enormous
fear of change. Like they were afraid.
Yeah. I think that
to put up the front to not look like a big scaredy cat, they probably made it seem like I'm unwilling to change because, they don't want to look like a little bitch. But that speaks to the complexity of all the actors' performances. I really got all those layers in there, especially with William H. Macy. Obviously, they showcase him too. I thought, now there were a couple things about this movie that really bothered me, like a lot.
Okay.
The main thing is, so when you come back to reality, when they come out of Pleasantville, Tobey Maguire has now stopped being, what's his name, Bud, and he's back to being David is his name in real life. He comes out of the TV and the mom's there, and he takes care of his mom. He talks to his mom instead of just watching some random sitcom he's seen 50 times. So it shows him how to be a better person, which is really cool. And I think that was cool character development, ties the ending to the beginning. His sister stayed in Pleasantville, and the mom doesn't even know. I mean, at that point, she wouldn't know. But
Right.
when does he go, hey, Mom, so kind of like the new Jumanji movies, we got sucked into the TV, and she stayed. She never come back. Like, what?
I mean, I don't know. I wonder if it's like the opposite, like Pleasantville. Like, as long as she's in the TV, she didn't exist in the real world. And then if she decides to leave, if she's able to leave at any point and come out.
Maybe, but then Tobey Maguire's character, David, has to sit there and live with knowing, oh, my mom isn't even aware that my sister exists.
I know that it's a little dark. It's a loophole that they left.
Yeah.
There.
I mean, they could treat it too like she's off to college, because that's where she went. In the end, she was like, she started it, she was like, I want to be a popular person. I want to be like, she basically was like a ditzy blonde. And by the end of the movie, she was like, I want to get an education and better myself and go to college. I can do that here in Pleasantville. I can't do that in the real world because I already kind of fucked up my education in real life.
Mm.
So she was like, let me stay here, educate myself, and then I'll come back eventually. And I thought that was cool, but it also sets up basically a psychological thriller where the mom realizes, because it's the mom too from Malcolm in the Middle.
Mm-hmm.
So she's perfect. She's fantastic at performing that role of being the mom. So I just immediately was like, there's a sequel in there where the mom is trying to figure out where her daughter is, and she's like remembering her, but not, she can't remember the daughter because she's in Pleasantville. So in reality, she doesn't exist. And I was like writing it in my head as I'm watching it. And it bothered me that much where I'm bringing it up, going on about it like this. But, you know, it showed the complexities too of family life and, you know, how things are supposed to be and how they're never supposed to be anything. You know, in the end, Tobey Maguire's character kind of realizes, look, you might have had a plan. Life is going to tell you, screw your plan. Whatever you thought was going to happen isn't going to happen. You just have to roll with the punches and, you know, see where the future brings you.
We're seeing that right now. Thank you, 2020.
Yeah, right now, my plans for 2020 are just like knocked on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And we've adapted, we've overcome, and here we are on this Zoom podcast, doing it live.
Well, what you said? Other things bothered you. What else bothered you besides that, or is that the only?
That was the biggest thing that really bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the idea too that there was a kid in high school that memorized a 1950s sitcom. That was a little strange. It kind of felt like they were in the 90s, like they were in 98 was probably the time that they were really living in.
Yeah.
Because that's when the movie came out, by the way, 1998. I've never, you know, I'm a huge nerd. Like, you can probably quiz me to an extent on, like, Marvel movies. Not to the extent of, like, what's the guy's name that picked up Tony Stark's mail in this one episode? You know, like, I don't know those things. His character knew all that stuff. I didn't believe it. I was like, who is this kid? He's that.
You could literally quiz me about anything about the MASH TV show from 1970, and I could tell you about it. There are people who exist who love classic stuff like that. I know you're not a big fan, and it's not believable to you.
It bothers me. It might not bother other people. But that was one thing where I was like, yeah, I don't get it. Otherwise, it's hard to think of stuff I didn't like about the movie.
I think the performances were beautiful.
Oh, they're fantastic, yeah. Starring Tobey Maguire, Jeff Daniels, Joan Allen, William H. Macy, J.T. Walsh, Reese Witherspoon, Don Knotts, Paul Walker, Marley Shelton, and Jane, can't say that last name, Kaczmarek. Jane Kaczmarek. But big cast. I'm surprised Tobey Maguire, like, I don't remember him pre-Spider-Man. So it was cool to see that. But the performances were fantastic.
Yeah, I could watch Joan Allen do pretty much anything. Same with William H. Macy. Same with Jeff Daniels. They're so good. They're so good. And they're so versatile. Like it always blows my mind with Jeff Daniels that he could go from like Dumb and Dumber to something like this. You know, it's just, and then go play Atticus Finch on Broadway for forever. Like it's fascinating to me. And same with Joan Allen and William H. Macy. Like watching William H. Macy go from something like this where he's the most wholesome, you know, stereotypical 1950s dad where his biggest problem is, you know, where's my dinner? Like that whole scene to
that was hysterical.
That was so good. And then, but then you watch him on Shameless and you're like, oh my God.
You talk about having range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the performances in this are some of the best that I've seen.
Yeah. I think it's credit to the writers and the director too for giving, because it's hard to have the perspective of like you live in a 1950s sitcom, so your dinner not being ready at 6:30, that's life-shattering stuff because it's been that way since time began.
Mm-hmm.
Like the mom, I thought this was really interesting too. When Reese Witherspoon sits down with the mom, she basically explains what sex is to the mom and has the talk with her mother.
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting because the mom has kids. So the concept of what sex is, she should understand, but it doesn't because that wasn't part of the show. That was
right.
So it's really strange to watch these characters that should know things, should understand what rain is, and they knew what rain was, but they were like, this is what it looks like, and they were like scared of rain. It was so strange and funny to see that come to life. And I think the balance that they struck between comedy and drama really let the dramatic moments hit home because they had such a high with these comedies, and then they brought you really down low for all these big dramatic moments, like when they start putting out signs that say no coloreds. And they were obviously referencing all the people with colorized skin, which is kind of crazy. But, you know, I think that was really done well too, the balance between comedy and drama.
Yeah. Overall, again, one of my favorite films. It's wonderful. If you haven't seen it, AFC people, go watch it.
Sure. Make it the movie of the week. We're basically doing 2 movies a week now because we're doing 2 podcasts a week. But I wanted to talk too about the technical aspect of the film. How did they do back in 1998? How did they do certain things in color, certain things in not? It was the first time that they tried this. Basically what they did was they filmed everything in color, and then they scanned each individual frame, digitizing it, basically pulling it into, if not Photoshop, I don't know if Photoshop was around in 1998 at that point, but some kind of program, and individually pulled each frame out and desaturated the things they wanted to desaturate. And I'm sure that that's true for most of the film. I'm sure anything that was entirely black and white, they said, let's just film it and then desaturate the whole thing, which is astronomically easier. But for any shots where, say the first one, where the rose or the flower is shown in color, but nothing else is, and that's Paul Walker seeing it, R.I.P. Paul Walker sees the flower, and it's in color, and it's like amazing. It's the one color bubble in the middle. All the frames of that shot were taken out and individually desaturated in specific spots, which is so much work. It's so much work to do that.
Well, talking about editing being time consuming, that's ridiculous.
This is 22 years ago, maybe 23 years ago when they were shooting it, where they didn't have Photoshop and you can't just outline the thing and do it. They had to do it by hand, frame by frame. And there's programs now where you can just be like, highlight this flower, desaturate everything else, and it's rendered and out in 4 seconds. You can't do that in 1998. So they put a lot of effort into making this movie look a certain way. 163,000 frames of 35 millimeter footage was altered for this movie. Was scanned, I should say. Just insane, absolutely insane. So credit to them for putting all that effort in so that we could enjoy this movie 22 years later. It should also be noted that this movie had some difficult times as well. There was a cameraman named Brett Hersham, who the movie is actually Brent Hirschman. Cameraman worked a 19-hour day while filming this movie and was driving home and fell asleep at the wheel and died. So they actually dedicated the movie to him, as well as, who else did they? J.T. Walsh and the director's mother. Basically the whole film was dedicated to those three people. J.T. Walsh also passed away. It was the last film that he worked on. He was the mayor in this movie. Yeah, just wanted to mention that too. I mean,
I didn't realize he passed away. I didn't realize he passed away so quickly afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it says it's the last thing he worked on. So in the end, they wanted to dedicate it to Brent Hirschman, the cameraman that was working on it and passed away. The director dedicated it to his mother, for obvious reasons. It's his mother. And, this actor who has been in a bunch of stuff died pretty quickly right after.
It says he starred in Hidden Agenda, Pleasantville, and The Negotiator, and all three films were dedicated to his memory.
Wow. This was supposedly his last thing that he worked on. Let's see. There was also a funny contest that they did. So they did a contest for the film where 30,000 people entered the contest for a chance to win a trip to the real Pleasantville, Iowa. So exciting.
Hey, at this point, though, in quarantine, I'll go anywhere that I'm allowed to go.
Right.
So.
You're not allowed to go there. I'm just letting you know you cannot go there. I don't know if that's where they filmed it, but they were giving away a trip to Pleasantville, Iowa, which I assume the plug was that it's similar to the movie. So if they didn't film it there, it must at least be something similar in it's almost like a throwback town to the 50s or something.
I don't think they filmed it there. When I was trying to look up how they did the basketball shot, and they showed the gymnasium that they shot in, and that was in Long Island.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think it said Long Island. But I don't think they filmed in Iowa.
Gotcha. Well, they were giving away a trip to Pleasantville, Iowa for some reason, just because it's Pleasantville. 30,000 people entered the contest, and the person who won said, "I'm going to remain anonymous, and also, I don't want to go. Can you give me the money instead?" And they wound up giving the guy $10,000. So that's kind of funny that the guy who won this big contest, 30,000 people entered wanting to go to Pleasantville, Iowa, and the guy was just like, "Cut me a check. I'd rather do that." Which is kind of funny. I don't know if that had anything to do with the success of the film. Maybe he was just like, because the budget was higher than what the box office brought in.
Yeah.
Which is a little strange because it was positively received. It seemed like it did well. A lot of people got some awards. It won a few Oscars for things like costume design and set design, things like that. But the budget was $60 million, and it only brought in $49.8 million in the box office.
I have a feeling that it's one of those that, people discover later and end up, loving. It might not have been, big hit in the theater. And we're finding that with a lot of films that we thought were, big hits like Bronx Tale and stuff that were like, technically by like box office standards, this was a flop. No,
it probably made its money back well enough in like DVD sales and things like that, or VHS sales, I should say, because we're talking about 22 years ago here. It probably made its money back over time, but in terms of the box office, usually people try to shoot to make their money back in the first week or weekend. Pleasantville seems like the type of movie that wouldn't make its money back in the first weekend. It also was a lot of these people, Tobey Maguire, Reese Witherspoon, I don't know where they were at with their careers at that point. They weren't the biggest names in the universe, were they?
I mean, I think Reese Witherspoon was definitely at that point pretty. I don't know. But everyone else William H. Macy was definitely a big name. Jeff Daniels was definitely a big name. Joan Allen, definitely a big name. And I'm pretty sure that Reese Witherspoon at that point, I mean, she had been really starting her career in like 1991, when she was pretty young. So she's been,
She's been around. Okay.
She'd been around for a while. And I think with Tobey Maguire too, actually. When did Tobey Maguire get his start? Because, he'd been acting since he was a little kid.
Yeah. Like I said, I've never seen him in anything besides, this was after the Spider-Man movies, but The Great Gatsby was the other movie I've seen him in, the remake.
I don't think I've actually watched that many things that he's been in, but I know that he's been in a lot of stuff. Yeah. So I think the name, I don't think the name recognition was an issue for it being, a hit.
Yeah. Maybe a lot of people felt like me and they were like, oh, this whole trailer's in black and white. I don't want to see this. And maybe they thought it was going to be like a boring black and white movie, and that maybe deterred some people, which I'm sure is true for at least some people, where they might think, oh, I don't want to watch a black and white movie. You doing? It's 1998. Come on. Give us... They also had like Jurassic Park, and they were like, show me the dinosaurs. I feel like it's similar in a way to, have you ever seen the show A Good Place?
Good Place. No, I haven't watched that one yet. Yeah, I haven't watched that yet.
Stars Kristen Bell. Basically, she dies, and she goes to the good place. It's not really heaven, but it's a place you go if you were good. And they basically just explain, like, this is a good place. You're in the good place, but something's wrong. And she basically is sent there on accident because she has the same name as somebody else who was, like, creating charities and saving the rainforest and doing all these amazing things. And she was, like, a mess. She was a hot mess. And she was like, I shouldn't be here, but I don't want to lie, or I don't want to tell anybody because then I'll get kicked out of heaven. This is the afterlife here.
Yeah. It's
a funny show, too. It's definitely worth a watch if you haven't watched The Good Place. I think it's on Netflix now, too, and Hulu. But, yeah, it's similar to that, where you get sucked into this seemingly perfect world, and you find out all the things that are wrong with it from within. Very interesting. It reminded me of that.
Well, I'm glad that we got a chance to kind of deep dive into it. I'm glad we got a chance to meet Jenny B officially. So that was really cool. We're going to share all of her links and everything. And again, if you haven't watched Pleasantville, check it out. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube so you can see our lovely faces. We would love to see you on there. You can like, comment, and subscribe for all of our content that's coming up.
Yes, and thank you for tuning in, everybody. I am Jim Galizia.
And I'm Victoria Fragnito. We'll see you next time.